we're going to go ahead and invite our panelists up to the stage. And this is Help Wanted, Responsive and Innovative Workforce Development. So let's give a hand for our panelists here today. Now, I think the theme of this conversation really throughout this entire summit has been driving innovation in a number of different policy areas. And so we're here to talk to these experts today about how we drive innovation in the workforce and fill some much needed pipelines. So with some very brief introductions, you can see their full bios in our app. We've got Dawn Lang here to my left, who's the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships with Vision 3, a platform that uses virtual reality and gamification to attract young learners through immersive technology. We've got Nicole Gasper here, who is the CEO of West Michigan Aviation Academy, and Stephen Taylor, who is a Senior Fellow of Post-Secondary Education at Stand Together Trust and has focused on removing policy and regulatory barriers in education, and he'll talk a little bit more in these questions. So Nicole, I'm going to start with you in a moment, but Dawn, I'm going to kick to you first. Before you came to Vision 3, you were at the council here for Adult and Experiential Learning, CAEL, it's a mouthful. Right. As we evaluate the current state of our workforce today, I want to hear your perspective on how we get these underserved populations and minorities that are not represented in our workforce into the workforce in terms of the skills and employment gaps that are still persisting today.
Thank you for having us here, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. It's a huge issue to tackle, and one of the things that we found with the Council at Experiential Learning, Adult and Experiential Learning, is that with underserved populations, there's many barriers that stand in their way for success, and they tend to be barriers such as transportation, childcare, housing, food shortages, and in ways that affect their ability to just show up. Also, those are the same barriers that many students face in degree completion. And we often found that a lot of post-secondary institutions are now having to step up and serve many roles in offering those services, recognizing that that was a barrier for completion for their students. And so as we see that transferring also into the workforce, we're seeing employers now struggling with those same issues and evolving their benefit plans and offerings to include a lot of those services as part of their benefit offering, including college financial services for college and degree and credential completion. So it's definitely a struggle. And as we look at even some of the challenges around some of the specificity, the Policy Circle did a brief on literacy. And when you look at our low literacy rates among adults, we are struggling as a nation to really help people have the right and the necessary literacy skills to be successful, not only in life and just in K-12, but even beyond, which is, there's strong ties with, unemployment. If you have low literacy, there's ties to unemployment, and really reduces their opportunities for success. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities there to close some gaps. And I think that if the more that we can help, especially early on in K-12 education, we can really start to tackle that systemic issue that's going on nationally.
It's so interconnected, and I think we're hearing that in a lot of our panels today. It's hard to isolate just one issue, so thanks for sharing that. Nicole, I want to turn to you. A lot of the changes in our workforce have happened at warp speed in the last few years for a number of reasons, and that's further increased the skills gap. So you have a background in education and tech development, and so I want to hear a little bit about what you're seeing as the current realities in the workforce today, especially as it relates to this classroom to career pipeline, something that Dawn just touched on, but I'd love to hear from your perspective.
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me. This is my first interaction with this amazing group of women leaders. It's just been such a pleasure. So, yeah, I've been in public education my whole life, all 5 years of it. And what we've been seeing and what we've been hearing from employers for quite a long time are some of the basic skills of just a workforce, right? The ability to show up, the ability to show up on time, the ability to be a critical thinker, a problem solver, the ability to work with others. Some of those very basic workforce skills that have somehow dwindled. But in addition to that, we have a lot more high-tech and innovative jobs happening out there, especially in the STEM fields. And so really what we've been working on and what we are excited about is exposing students at a very young age, and others have talked about this already, but making sure you have those intentional exposure points for kids so that over periods of their life, and as they get to dip their toe, so to speak, in the variety of careers that are available to them, they start to understand what their interests might be, what their interests might not be. And that includes, and I'll touch on this in a little bit, at the high school level, we like to say we get to volunteer our students what they get to experience because, well, they think they know, how would they, right, if they've not had exposure points in the past. In addition to thinking about our students, I'll touch on a little bit with the national shortage of teachers, of high quality, highly educated teachers. Because we're a STEM and aviation school, it's even extra tricky, extra challenging being able to find highly qualified, highly certified adults who are passionate in their areas to serve kids. And so we've been able to take a holistic approach. Again, when we're thinking about STEM fields, being in a public high school, you're not able to compete with STEM careers in the private sector in terms of pay. And so we've been able to take this holistic approach where we really have worked with our teachers over time to figure out what is it that makes a difference for them. We know a lot of young people, their drive really is that they want to see impact. And so we've been able to make sure that our teaching staff, as we are bringing them in, we start again with the post-secondary institutions and being able to partner with them for student-teacher opportunities, student internships. Even before that, our high school students are involved in future of the education field through the intermediate school districts. And so, again, growing them from high school age, getting young, developing professionals in the field, and then being able to provide a workplace where you can show impact. We also have done some innovative pieces with being able to work with our charter authorizer to be able to both scholarship students to the post-secondary fields, but also our teachers so that they can continue their training to be STEM educators. And so, again, just to go back to the original piece is making sure that those basic work skills are in our education system. And really what that comes down to is a fine balance between accountability and support.
That's great. Thank you, Nicole. We've got some, I hope you're taking notes here. Accountability and support is exactly what we need. And we're going to touch a little bit more about the details of this innovation that you're driving, Nicole. But Stephen, I want to turn to you. We've all seen the help wanted signs at almost every business. You know, there's a frequent shortage, really, and we're hearing that in a number of different sectors. But we've seen that the skilled worker shortage, especially in healthcare and tech industries, are really prevalent. You founded Ed2Work, which we hinted at earlier. So tell us about this. It focuses on adult and working learners. But why is the U.S. facing this shortage of skilled workers? And talk to us a little bit about these barriers of upskilling and reskilling for our audience today.
Yeah, great point. So what we saw during the pandemic was what's been deemed the Great Resignation. We have somewhere around 11 million, edging closer to 10 million with the impending recession, but unfilled jobs. So these are open jobs in the marketplace, and there are 7 million currently unemployed people. That's a gap of 3 to 4 million unfilled jobs. And so the Great Resignation that sort of existed during the pandemic was this huge exodus of people from the workforce. But as we start to unpack the Great Resignation, what we really see is it was more of a great reshuffle. And so it was this reshuffling of an already educated, experienced workforce from one company or one job to another company. We were still keeping far too many potential workers, potential employees, locked out of these opportunities. And what we're seeing is that far too many of these individuals, we call them STARS. Opportunity at Work is a great nonprofit doing some work with STARS. These are individuals who are skilled through alternative routes. These individuals were locked out of these opportunities during the pandemic and post-pandemic that are emerging. So many of them would love to fill these 10, 11 million unfilled jobs, but because of unnecessary degree requirements, they are locked out of these jobs. So I've got a couple of stats that I don't want to misread them. So June 2020, a quarter of American adults said that they would pursue education and training within 6 months if they lost their job. However, we see that 3 out of 5 working adults are questioning the value and the relevance of a college degree and say it's too expensive. 30 million U.S. workers without a degree are in the workforce but underemployed. They have the skills necessary to earn 70% more. But because of glaring wage gaps that exist between degree holders and non-degree holders and these unnecessary degree barriers, these individuals aren't realizing their full opportunity. They can't realize their full potential in a marketplace that isn't recognizing those skills. So that's a huge barrier right now. Employers privileging degrees unnecessarily. We are really focused at Stand Together Trust in butting up against that. We want to see more states follow the suit of Maryland, where Governor Larry Hogan eliminated degree requirements for state jobs. We think if more governors can do that, it sends a really important signal to the private sector to follow suit. By doing that, we do move away from this college for all mentality. We start to privilege other types of education and skills development, not just college degrees, and then that builds demand for flexible funding streams for individuals to pursue those. And I'll just say one more thing and then kick it back to you, but our current funding system in post-secondary education highly privileges college-going routes. For those low-income individuals or incomes from low-income households, they count on the Pell Grant as their federal means-tested aid to pursue post-secondary education. That locks them into college pathways where they end up having to acquire student debt to cover the gap. What we need is for individuals to be able to use those funds to pursue any post-secondary education opportunity, not just a degree. But we also need employers to send the right demand signals that they will recognize something that is a sub-degree or degree alternative credential.
It's really helpful. At 70%, it's a huge number. So it's helpful to hear those statistics. Thanks for sharing that. Don, I want to learn a little bit more about V3 Connect because we're talking all about innovation. We have people who are doing it right here on this panel. So tell us, what is V3 Connect? Talk to us a little bit about this, and how does this help students reimagine these career pathways?
So V3 Connect is a virtual reality experience that helps students reimagine their career pathways, to help them see a day in the life of somebody in a job so that they can become what they see. So we have a philosophy that you can't be what you can't see. So it exposes students across all sectors, geographically, cultures, you name it. It gives them opportunities to see career pathways and jobs that they may not have been exposed to had they not seen it in VR. So it's job shadowing somebody maybe on an airstrip to understand what it means to be to fly an airplane, or maybe even work on an engine, or even work in a surgical capacity. So it helps them better align with what they might like and what resonates with them, and then helps bring along the career, the education piece, because the way that we're partnering is in the state of Indiana, we're partnering with Ivy Tech Community College, which is our statewide community college system, and also the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, the IEDC. So it's designed to really bring that stickiness of education alongside with the students' career interests. We're introducing it in K-12, so grades 9 through 12, and then all the way up through the late 20s. So the average age of the Ivy Tech student in the state of Indiana is 27. So it's critical to hit them during that window, and we're actually being asked to go younger than that, but right now we're starting in this age demographic for a very specific reason. We're taking it from the lens of the student rather than the lens of the employer, so that as they go through this immersive experience, it serves up information and content that they can relate to. So it's almost like a faux social media kind of experience. And so that's kind of the AI stickiness that filters through their likes and then serves up job opportunities that align with what they selected, and then takes them through different categories, and maybe they show up in an engine room and see what it means to put their hands on an engine, move it, shift it, rotate it. What kind of jobs are somebody that might work on an engine? Maybe it's a CAD designer, maybe it's somebody that's a mechanic, or maybe it's a mechanical engineer. or a technician. So what are all those vast opportunities? And then it breaks it down even further to say salary range, skill sets necessary for this job, and potential education or certificate requirements for somebody in this job. So it really gives them a full view, starting at the top of the funnel, working its way down, guided by the student. So it's a wonderful, so far we've had such huge interest in this, and starting in January it's going to hit 5 sites at the Ivy Tech campuses across the state of Indiana and expand from there, with the goal being across the state of Indiana having these virtual reality labs in all high schools across the state by 2025.
It's fantastic. Well, we've got virtual reality, we've got artificial intelligence. I mean, what more do we need? We need to hear about the West Michigan Aviation Academy. So, Nicole, I want to turn to you and first tell us what you are doing. But you have a particular focus on this STEM-centered technical training. So tell us a little bit about your work and how this is impacting students and potential employers.
Sure. I just wish I could have everyone come visit the school, because whenever we have community members come to the school, it's really our kids that make it what it is. And so just a little bit of background. We started in 2010. We are a high school, grades 9 through 12. We are a free public charter high school. Which is really critical, because the type of work we're doing, I feel like, combines the best of everything education. It's everything I could have hoped for in my 25 years of public ed. And what also is important is that we serve families from about an hour, all in every direction. We pull from about 50 different school districts, and we're located right at the Grand Rapids International Airport. And so our kids are hearing and feeling and seeing airplanes every day, multiple times. The other piece about our school is that when it was started, when it was founded, and I do have to digress just for a second. So Mr. Dick DeVos tells a story of when he ran for governor, and the day after he was not chosen to be the governor of Michigan, he had a very clear calendar, and he was trying to figure out what he should do next. And it was encouraged by former U.S. Secretary of Ed, Betsy DeVos, his wife, to combine his loves, his passion areas, which are education and aviation, and hence the academy was born. And with that, though, comes just a beautiful foundation of high expectations, high levels of accountability with high levels of support. And so the goal, and others have touched on these, I mean, I was writing down so many key points from all the speakers today, because I feel like you were saying what I was hoping to say today, which is the goal is that a child's zip code never determines the quality of their education. And as a mom of 2 daughters, I mean, and any of the parents in here, I mean, that's absolutely what it comes down to. And so what was done was putting into place a variety of people that could really take a holistic approach to all of our children. Everything from special education services to social worker to English language learner support. We take our kids wherever they're at, from wherever they're at. There's no screen out process. There's no test out process. We have every kind of child in our building, which makes it really beautiful. We have 45 flags representing the birth origins of our kids from over the years. And so we're this beautiful, eclectic, diverse group that has all chosen the academy because either of aviation, engineering, and STEM, or because the culture that we have. Our mantra is, ladies and gentlemen, and I know that's outdated language for some, but for us, we're unapologetic about it. It's about respect and treating one another as you want to be treated. We don't give Ds. What does a D show? So it's A, B, C, F. We have uniforms, and as a mother of 2 daughters, thank God for the uniform. And everything we do is about utilizing these expectations as teaching tools. So, we tell our students, if we can't trust you to tuck your polo in and have your belt on every day, how can we trust you to fly one of our school airplanes during the day across the state of Michigan by yourself, which is exactly what some of our kids are doing. So we have 3 school airplanes and a glider. We have 17-year-olds flying airplanes by themselves, obviously, once they're equipped and we're confident. We have about 15 to 25 young women and men, 17, 18-year-olds, flying airplanes, earning their private pilot's licenses by the time they graduate high school. We also have UAS drones program where kids can earn Part 107A industrial commercial license where they can be workforce ready by the time they graduate. And there's so much more. I mean, we have an early college program we participate in. We have internships, apprenticeships, biomedical engineering, computer science. So very heavy engineering focus in our coursework, also aviation. I think my favorite part, though, about the school and about what we get to do with and for our families every day is that we have a group of adults that choose to come, not because they're paid as competitively as our neighboring traditional publics, because our charters get about a third less state aid, but everybody chooses to show up because they've bought into our mission, vision, values. And we show up every day so that we can serve the families who have actually chosen us.
That's great. Thank you, Nicole. I mean, really incredible what you all are doing. I know we are cutting it close to time. So, Stephen, I want to hear from you, and then we're going to do one really fast rapid-fire round with you all. But, Stephen, I want you to take it local for us. You know, talk about the local level innovation that you're seeing that is able to increase this post-secondary education attainment, equipping communities to really develop this workforce. And also, tell us a little bit about what the role of community colleges are currently or what they could or should be, and a little bit about, you know, certifications, apprenticeship programs. You know, what are we missing and what can we do more of?
Yeah, so an effort that I would point you to is in the National Capital Region, so ranging from Baltimore, Maryland, all the way down to Richmond, Virginia. The Greater Washington Partnership, through them as an intermediary, they've got what's called the Capital CoLab. Because the nation's capital region is now the 3rd largest region for digital tech talent in the country, with the move of Amazon and some other key employers there, there's a huge digital tech talent gap. We're talking tens of thousands of jobs in the next few years with nobody to fill those jobs. That's a key component of Amazon moving there, is that the region can fill those available jobs. So what Greater Washington Partnership has done is brought together some of the top digital tech employers in the region. So the Northrop Grumman, Booz Allen, Chase, Cap One, to say, what do you need? We will bring the educators to the table. They've got the top universities from Baltimore down to Richmond at the table saying we're ready to deliver. The reason it's working is not because higher ed's going and developing degree programs and then employers are, you know, kind of throwing darts at the board to hope something sticks. Together, employers, the actual digital tech scientists at these companies are working with the faculty at the institutions to co-develop what they call the KSAs, the knowledge, skills, and abilities around cyber, machine learning, AI, cloud computing, to say these are the jobs we need, these are the skills that we need. We as employers are best positioned to tell you how you can embed these in your programs in a way that will trust those skills as they're embedded in programs. And so because it's this co-creation process of skills embedded in credentials, and it can be a major, a minor, a certificate, a degree, employers automatically trust when somebody shows up with one of these credentials that's got the seal of approval from Greater Washington Partnership, that there's no question that they're work ready, they have the skills, and so that's how they're closing that digital tech skills gap in the region, is employers are co-creating and writing these KSAs and helping figure out how to embed them in the credentials, and they have a seat at the table, so they trust the process. And it's much different than the typical faculty. I've got my PhD, I know what's best, I've never worked in industry, and I'm going to create this degree that's going to prepare somebody to go into an industry that I've never worked in. But I read about it. right? So now this is what's different, is we're building trust through this process.
It's great and so needed. You know, we've heard a lot of terms thrown around that maybe people aren't experts. You know, VR, AI. Let's bring it back to our audience here. We are a community of change makers that are driving local solutions. So for our last round of questions with a rapid fire lightning round here, I want to know if you could share with this audience what they can do to bring this to their communities, to continue to drive innovation at that local level. Don, I'll start with you.
Get involved with your schools. It has to start early. We're seeing it starting early everywhere. In fact, the state of Indiana is starting the career pathway conversation in the elementary level now. And so while you think that that's too early, what we're seeing in the workforce need right now is we can't fill the jobs that are even open. And I think you're seeing post-secondary institutions and four-year colleges trying to step up, like Purdue is offering a bachelor's, master's degree specifically in semiconductor industry jobs, because we're attracting those industries to the state. So they're intentionally creating these talent pathways out, up, and through into a job pathway. So you're seeing that happening now, very intentional about it. So the more that you can get involved and engaged and understand what that looks like, because there is an economic impact to all of this, and it does affect all of us individually, everything from the value of our homes and the impact to our communities and beyond. So getting involved at the local level is absolutely something I challenge and encourage you all to do at the school level.
Thank you, Don. Nicole.
Well, I think it's been said here, promoting school choice for families. I think that's just huge. And for those of us around us that don't support that, help showcase some of the schools that are doing amazing things for students and families, especially because there's so much misinformation out there about charter schools specifically. I think, again, just being able to find those showcase schools, find those examples of where it is working, and then be able to help people not believe all the wrong information that's out there. And I think the second piece I would recommend is we have lunch and learns all the time for our kids, where we invite people from all kinds of business, industry, so that our students, again, it's about those exposure points, can learn. And so it's amazing what some pizza and some pop can do to get kids at the table to then all of a sudden become inspired by a mom who happens to be in a certain role, or a dad, or a grandparent. And so volunteer, be somebody that can help showcase what's out there for our young people.
Thank you, Nicole. Stephen, to you.
Yeah, so I lead our policy work in post-secondary ed, and what I always say is policymakers are great at either getting in the way or getting out of the way, but they are not going to be the ones that create change. Change is going to be created in communities by people like you, right? And so many of you in this room are probably business owners, whether it be small business owners or company executives, or these folks. What you can do is go back within your circle and try to influence how we recognize alternative credentials. If there's a way that we can start to eliminate the unnecessary degree requirements, it opens up opportunity for so many individuals. And I'm talking the 14, 15-year-old on up to the 60, 70-year-old. If we don't start to change the demand signal, then what we continue to do is deprioritize and quite frankly, just bastardize community and technical education. So we have 15, 16, 17-year-olds that don't want to pursue these types of opportunities because society tells them that it's less than, and it takes folks in this room and your circles and your extended circles to change that paradigm. So that's what I would say. Go out into your circles and use what you're learning and influence that dialogue.
It's great. Well, we've heard so much today, but I think it comes all full circle. Education, workforce, innovation, and development is all tied together, and it comes through change with you all here in this room. So let's give a round of applause to our panelists. Thank you.